She said she was staying at her sister's, but her sister called me, asking if I'd seen her. When Laura told me she'd be spending the weekend at her sister Emma's place, I didn't think twice about it. It wasn't unusual for her to visit. She and Emma were close, and they'd sometimes do these girls' weekends where they'd watch movies, drink wine, and stay up late talking. I even thought it was a good idea. Laura had been stressed with work lately, and a little sister time could only help. Friday night, she kissed me goodbye, suitcase in hand, and promised to text when she arrived. She sent me a quick "made it" about 2 hours later, which seemed normal enough. We exchanged a few texts before she said she was going to bed early because Emma had to be up for work the next morning. That part didn't even strike me as odd. Emma's a nurse, and her shifts can be brutal. The first time I felt something was off was on Saturday evening. My phone rang, and Emma's name flashed on the screen. I smiled, thinking maybe they were calling me together. But when I answered, Emma sounded distracted. "Hey, quick question," she said. "Have you seen Laura?" Her words caught me off guard. No? She's supposed to be with you." Emma was quiet for a moment. "No, she's not here. I've been working all weekend. We didn't have any plans to hang out." I froze. My brain scrambled for a reasonable explanation. "Maybe she's with one of your friends? Or at your place while you're at work?" "I'm literally at the hospital right now," Emma said. "And I didn't leave her a key. I just thought maybe she decided to head home early and forgot to tell you." We hung up, both equally confused, but something in my gut tightened like a fist. Laura had told me she'd be with her sister for the whole weekend. If she wasn't there, then where was she? I called her, but she didn't answer. A few minutes later, I got a text. "Sorry, can't talk right now." "Everything's fine, babe." No explanation. No detail. Just that. That's when I opened Instagram. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Maybe some random clue. I checked her profile. Nothing new. Then I started going through her friends' stories, tapping through one after another. It was about 20 minutes into my scrolling when I saw it. Her friend Jenna had posted a clip from what looked like a bar or lounge. The camera was shaky, the music loud, and the lighting dim. But in the background, caught in a mirror behind the bar, I saw Laura. She was leaning into a guy, smiling in that way she used to smile at me in the early days. He had his arm around her waist. It was just a second of footage, but it hit me like a punch. I told myself it could be old. Maybe Jenna posted a throwback. Maybe I was overreacting. But I checked the timestamp, posted 23 minutes ago. I sat there, phone in my hand, heart pounding. My logical side said, "Wait, ask her about it." My pride said, "She's lying. You know she's lying." I didn't text her right away. I wanted to see what she would say on her own. A few hours later, she finally messaged me. "Hey babe, sorry I've been MIA. Just been super busy with Emma. We're doing a spa day tomorrow." The lie was so casual it almost made me laugh. Emma, who had just told me she was working 12-hour shifts, apparently had time for a spa day? I didn't call her out, yet. Instead, I played along. "Sounds nice. Hope you're having fun." That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that image in the mirror. The next morning, while sipping coffee, I remembered something. Laura and I had a shared bank account for certain expenses. She rarely used it unless it was for groceries or something we both agreed on. I opened the banking app and scanned through recent charges. There it was. A payment to a hotel in a city about an hour away. The transaction had gone through just after she texted me. "Everything's fine." I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands were steady, but inside, something broke. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This was proof. I decided not to confront her over the phone. If she was lying, she'd only twist it. Instead, I got in my car and drove toward that city. The hotel wasn't hard to find. It was a mid-range, nothing special place. The kind of spot you pick when you don't want to be noticed. I parked across the street, far enough away to not draw attention. My plan was simple. Wait. If she was there, I'd see her. If she wasn't, maybe I'd finally lose my mind. 2 hours later, the automatic doors slid open and out she came. Laura, wearing the same jacket she'd left in, her hair pulled up, sunglasses hiding her eyes, and next to her, walking close, was the man from the Instagram video. They were laughing about something, his hand brushing hers. They didn't see me. I sat there, frozen. My grip on the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ached. I could have jumped out, could have screamed, could have made a scene right there in front of strangers. But I didn't. Instead, I watched as they crossed the street, got into his car, and drove away. I memorized the license plate. I took photos. I documented everything. Because now, I wasn't just suspicious. Now, I was preparing. When I drove back home that Sunday evening, the weight in my chest wasn't just anger. It was focus. I had always imagined that if I caught someone I loved cheating, I'd explode in the moment. Rage, screaming, maybe even throwing something. But sitting there in my car, the images of her with him still fresh, I realized I didn't want a scene. I didn't want an argument she could twist into making me the bad guy. I wanted her to have no escape, no room for denial, no way to paint herself as anything but what she was. When she came back later that night, she was all smiles, dragging her suitcase into the apartment like nothing had happened. "Hey, babe," she said, walking over to kiss me. I leaned in just enough to make it seem normal but kept my expression neutral. "How was your weekend?" I asked. "Great," she said. "Emma and I really needed that time together. Spa day, wine, just sister stuff." It was almost impressive how effortlessly she lied. Her tone didn't waver. She didn't blink. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed her. "That's good," I said. "Glad you enjoyed yourself." She seemed relieved I wasn't grilling her with questions. She probably thought she'd pulled it off. Over the next few days, I pretended everything was fine. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings, texted her like usual, laughed at her stories about work. But in the background, I was building my case. First, I called the hotel and asked for an emailed receipt for my stay, claiming I'd lost the original. They didn't even question it, just sent over a PDF with her name on the reservation, along with the dates and times. Second, I went back to Jenna's Instagram and downloaded the video with the mirror reflection. It wasn't crystal clear, but you could definitely make out Laura's profile and the guy's arm around her. Third, I ran the license plate I'd memorized through a friend of mine who worked in auto insurance. He couldn't give me everything, but he confirmed the car belonged to a man named Daniel Hayes, the same guy I'd seen with her. By Thursday, I had everything I needed: photos, videos, receipts, and a name. But I wasn't going to just throw it in her face. That would give her the chance to cry, apologize, and promise it would never happen again. She was going to feel the kind of humiliation she'd been so casual about handing me. I texted Emma, "Hey, can you come over for dinner this Saturday? I want to surprise Laura with a little get-together." Emma, "Sure. She doesn't know." "Nope. Let's keep it between us for now." I also invited two of our mutual friends, Mark and Cassie, under the same pretense. "Just a nice night in, nothing fancy," I told them. The plan was simple. Everyone would be sitting together, Laura thinking it was just a friendly dinner, when the truth would come out. I wouldn't have to say a word. The evidence would speak for itself. On Friday night, Laura was in a great mood. She talked about how busy her week had been, how she wanted to maybe plan a trip for the two of us. I nodded along, all the while imagining her expression when she realized exactly how much I knew. Saturday came, and I woke up earlier than usual. I went to the store, picked up food, drinks, and some wine. I made sure the living room was spotless. I even set the table nicely. I wanted it to look like I'd put real effort into this night. Around 6:30 p.m., Mark and Cassie arrived. We chatted in the kitchen, keeping the conversation light. Emma showed up right on time, looking curious but not suspicious. And then Laura walked in. She froze when she saw everyone, clearly surprised, but then smiled like she'd just walked into a pleasant surprise. "What's going on?" she asked, putting her purse down. "Just thought it'd be nice to have everyone together," I said casually. We all sat down, ate, drank, and talked. For the first hour, it felt almost normal, which was exactly what I wanted. I wanted her guard completely down before I pulled the rug out from under her. At one point, Emma mentioned work and how crazy her shifts had been lately. Laura nodded along, sipping her wine, but I caught the flicker of something in Emma's eyes. Suspicion, maybe. She still didn't know the details, but she knew something wasn't adding up. When dessert was finished, I leaned back in my chair, picked up the TV remote, and said, "Actually, I have something to show you all. It's a little slideshow I put together." Laura looked amused, like she thought I'd made some kind of funny montage of our friends. The TV screen lit up. The first image appeared, the hotel receipt with her name on it. Her smile froze. The next slide was the screenshot of Jenna's Instagram story. The mirror reflection. Her face turned toward Daniel. Cassie glanced at Laura, her brow furrowing. Then came the photos I'd taken outside the hotel. Laura walking with Daniel, laughing, his hand brushing hers. Silence filled the room. Emma's face went pale. "Laura, what is this?" Laura swallowed hard, her eyes darting between me and the screen. This isn't what it looks like." I didn't say a word. I just hit play on the short clip I'd recorded from Jenna's story, the music and laughter filling the air. Her hands trembled as she reached for her glass, and that's when I leaned forward and finally spoke. "You told me you were staying at your sister's. She called me asking if I'd seen you." The color drained from her face. She knew she was done. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the low, tinny music from the Instagram video still playing on the TV. Laura sat frozen, her wine glass halfway to her lips, her hand trembling so badly that the liquid rippled. Emma's voice finally cut through the silence. "You told me you were working on a girls' weekend with me," she said, her tone sharp with disbelief. "Why would you even lie about that? I didn't even know you were anywhere. Laura's voice cracked. She set the glass down with a shaky clink. "It's not what you think." Mark let out a humorless laugh. "Oh, really? Because it looks exactly like what we think." She turned toward me, eyes wide and glossy. "Babe, please, let me explain. I was going through a rough patch, and Daniel's just an old friend. I needed someone to talk to. That's all it was. An old friend you checked into a hotel with," I said evenly. Her mouth opened and closed like she was searching for an angle that would make sense. It wasn't like that. The hotel was just convenient. We were hanging out and it got late and Emma pushed her chair back. "Stop. You can't even look me in the eye and say that without stuttering." The more she talked, the more desperate she sounded. She tried turning her body toward me, like if she shut the rest of them out, she could somehow pull me back in. "I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd get jealous. But nothing happened. I swear I stayed quiet." The silence was heavier than any yelling could have been. I wanted her to feel it, the way it pressed in, the way it made every second stretch out painfully. Cassie shook her head slowly. "Do you realize how bad this looks? Do you realize what you've done to him? To all of us? We thought you were different." Laura's face flushed deep red. She glanced around the table like she was looking for someone, anyone, to take her side. No one did. Finally, she snapped. "Okay, fine. Yes, I lied. I didn't want to deal with the endless questions. Daniel is someone I've known for years and I just needed a break from all of this." She gestured vaguely around, as if all of this meant me, the apartment, the life we'd built. Emma's voice was icy. "A break from your boyfriend means you go talk to your friends, not hide in a hotel with another man and make up fake spa days." Laura's eyes darted to mine, full of panic now. "Please, can we just talk about this privately? You don't have to do this in front of everyone." "That's the point," I said. My voice was calm, almost too calm. "You lied to me, to your sister, to our friends. You smiled in my face while spending the weekend with someone else, and you thought you could get away with it." Her breathing quickened. "So what, you're just going to humiliate me? Is that what you wanted?" I finally leaned forward, elbows on the table. "What I wanted was the truth. You weren't going to give me that willingly. So now everyone knows." She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You're pathetic." "This is pathetic?" Emma's eyes widened. "Pathetic? He's pathetic? You're the one lying and sneaking around," Mark muttered under his breath. "Unbelievable." Cassie crossed her arms. "Laura, you do realize you've burned every bridge in this room, right?" For the first time, Laura's mask cracked completely. Her eyes welled with tears, her bottom lip trembling. "I made a mistake, okay? I felt trapped. I needed to feel like myself again." I looked at her steadily. "You could have told me you were unhappy. You could have ended things before doing this. But you didn't. You wanted to have both." She reached for me, but I leaned back in my chair, out of her grasp. That small motion seemed to break something in her. The tears spilled over. She turned away from the table, covering her face with her hands. "I don't even know why I came back here," she whispered. "You came back because you thought you could lie your way through it," I said. Emma stood, shaking her head. "I can't even look at you right now." She grabbed her coat and walked toward the door, muttering something under her breath. Laura glanced at her retreating sister, then at me, then at the rest of the table. There was no fight left in her posture now, just exhaustion and shame. Cassie broke the silence again. "I think you should go, Laura." For a long moment, Laura didn't move. Then she nodded slowly, like she'd finally accepted that there was nothing she could say to undo this. She picked up her purse, wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand, and walked toward the door without another word. The door closed behind her, and the apartment fell into a heavy stillness. I let out a slow breath. My hands were steady, but my heart was pounding. I had pictured this night 100 times over the past week, and now that it was over, I felt empty. Mark cleared his throat. "That was brutal, but she deserved every second of it." Cassie nodded. "I'm sorry you had to go through this, but I'm glad you showed us who she really is." Emma didn't come back into the apartment, but I got a text from her a few minutes later. "Thank you for telling me. I'm so sorry." I stared at my phone for a while before putting it face down on the table. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt the quiet weight of finality settling in. I thought that after Saturday night things would go quiet, that she'd lick her wounds, maybe throw a few angry texts my way, and then disappear. But less than 12 hours later, my phone buzzed. "Laura, can we please talk? Just you and me." I ignored it. Half an hour later, "Laura, you don't know everything. Please give me a chance to explain." The audacity made me laugh. She'd had a week to come clean before I confronted her. She'd had years to build trust and a single weekend to burn it to the ground. And now she wanted a chance to explain. By Monday, the messages had shifted from pleading to guilt-tripping. Laura, I can't believe you'd humiliate me like that. Laura, we could have handled this privately. Laura, you've ruined my relationship with my sister. Every time my phone lit up with her name, I felt that same mix of anger and relief. Anger that she still thought she could control the narrative. Relief that I hadn't let her gaslight me into doubting what I'd seen. On Wednesday, she switched tactics again. Laura, I miss you. Laura, you were the best thing in my life. I messed up. Please, just coffee? I didn't answer. I wasn't going to let her pull me back into the same cycle she'd already proven she could break without a second thought. But Thursday night, as I was leaving work, I saw her. She was leaning against my car in the parking lot, hair down, makeup on, wearing the same leather jacket she'd been wearing the day she left for her sister's. I stopped a few feet away. What are you doing here? I just want to talk, she said, stepping forward like that would make it easier. There's nothing to talk about. Yes, there is. Her voice cracked. I made a mistake, but it's not what you think. Daniel, he's not just some random guy. He was a friend from before we met. I went to see him because I felt lost and I cut her off. You lied to me, to your sister, to everyone. You booked a hotel with him. I saw you with my own eyes. Which part of that do you think I've misunderstood? She flinched but kept going. I didn't sleep with him. We kissed, yes, but I don't know. I was confused and I panicked. I wanted to feel like I had options, but I didn't want to lose you either. That's worse, I said flatly. You knew exactly what you were risking and still decided you wanted both. Her eyes shimmered. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking you for another chance. I stared at her for a long moment. Part of me wanted to yell, to ask why she thought she could betray me and still expect me to be her safety net. But another part of me, the colder part, knew the most painful thing I could do for her now was nothing. So I stepped around her, unlocked my car, and got in. She reached for the door handle, but I locked it before she could open it. Our eyes met through the glass. Don't come to my work again, I said, through the barely cracked window. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but I pulled away before she could speak. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing there, small and still, as the distance between us grew. For the next week, she didn't show up in person again. The texts slowed, then stopped altogether. I thought maybe it was finally over. Then, one night, Emma called. I don't know if you care, she began, but I thought you should know. Laura and Daniel? It's already over. I raised an eyebrow even though she couldn't see me. Already? Yeah. Apparently he told her he wasn't looking for anything serious. And now she's blowing up my phone, crying about how she made a huge mistake. The corner of my mouth twitched in something that might have been a bitter smile. She'll survive. She's trying to get me to talk to you for her, Emma said. I told her I'm not getting in the middle. But I figured you'd want a heads up. I appreciate it, I said. But there's nothing to talk about. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet for a while. There was a strange emptiness to it all. No triumphant feeling, no real satisfaction. Just the knowledge that she'd thrown away something real for something fleeting. And now she was sitting in the ruins she'd made for herself. I didn't need to rub it in. The consequences were already doing that for me. Still, a part of me suspected she wasn't done trying. And if she wasn't, I'd be ready. I didn't hear from her for almost 2 weeks. It was long enough for me to start sleeping normally again, long enough for the sting to dull into something more like a scar. I'd settled into a new rhythm. Work, the gym, dinners alone, quiet weekends. It wasn't exciting, but it was peaceful. Then, on a rainy Friday night, there was a knock at my door. I knew it was her before I even opened it. Something about the timing, the way the knock was firm but hesitant. When I swung the door open, there she was, hood pulled over her head, damp hair sticking to her cheeks, mascara smudged under her eyes. Please, she said before I could speak. Just hear me out. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I almost shut the door right there. But some part of me, maybe curiosity, maybe the need to close the chapter for good, stepped aside and let her in. She stood in the living room like she wasn't sure if she was welcome. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, she began, voice trembling. And I know I screwed up. I know I lied, and I hurt you, and I destroyed the trust we had. But I can't stop thinking about you. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. That's not surprising. Daniel didn't stick around, did he? She winced. That's not fair. It's exactly fair. She swallowed hard. He wasn't what I thought. But that doesn't change how I feel about you. I love you. I always have. I let out a sharp laugh. You don't get to talk about love like it's still intact after what you did? Her eyes glistened. I made one mistake. Stop. My voice cut through hers. This wasn't one mistake. It was a chain of decisions. You lied to me about where you were. You lied to your sister. You went to another city with a man you'd been hiding from me. You booked a hotel. You kissed him. You came back and tried to smile in my face like nothing happened. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Over and over again. She was shaking now. I was scared you'd leave me if I told you I was feeling stuck. I thought maybe if you what? Shopped around for a backup before deciding if you wanted to keep me? She didn't answer. The silence stretched. I could see her chest rising and falling quickly, her hands twisting in front of her like she didn't know what to do with them. I'm not here to fight, she finally said. I want to make things right. You can't. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. You can't make it right, I repeated. There's no going back to before. You burned that bridge, and now there's nothing left but ash. A tear slid down her cheek. So that's it? After everything we've been through? That's it, I said. Because the person I thought I knew wouldn't have done this. And the person standing in front of me isn't someone I can trust. She stepped closer, as if closing the physical distance could close the emotional one too. Please, she whispered. I'll do anything. I'll prove it to you. Just tell me what I have to do. I shook my head. The fact that you even have to ask tells me you still don't understand. This isn't about proving something now. It's about the fact that I'll never be able to believe you again. And that's no way to build a life with someone. For a moment, I thought she might yell, might lash out. But instead, her shoulders slumped, and she looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Okay, she said softly, if that's what you want. She walked to the door slowly, like each step was heavier than the last. Her hand lingered on the doorknob before she looked back at me one last time. I hope you find someone who makes you as happy as I used to, she said. I didn't respond. The door closed behind her, and I stood there in the quiet, listening to the rain against the windows. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done, like a chapter that had been dragging on too long had finally ended. But deep down, I knew there was still one more thing I needed to do before I could truly move on. That night, I sat on the couch long after she'd gone, the rain still tapping against the glass. Her last words lingered in my head. I hope you find someone who makes you as happy as I used to. The truth was, I couldn't even remember the last time she'd made me happy without some underlying tension, without the creeping suspicion that something was off. The weekend with her sister had just ripped the cover off what I think I'd known for months. She was already gone long before I caught her. I pulled out my phone and opened our message thread. Years of texts, from the flirty, excited early days to the increasingly surface-level exchanges of recent months, all there in black and white. I scrolled for a while, not looking for anything in particular, just letting the weight of it settle. Then, without hesitation, I hit delete conversation. Next came the social media purge. Instagram, Facebook, even old tagged photos, all gone. Her number, blocked. Email, blocked. Every single shared account we'd ever set up, I went through and changed the passwords, removed her access, and in one or two cases closed the accounts entirely. It was tedious, but with each step, the heaviness lifted a little. The final thing I did was grab the shoebox from the back of my closet, the one filled with ticket stubs, birthday cards, and random little mementos from trips we'd taken. I didn't linger over any of it. No reading old notes, no reminiscing. I dumped the whole thing into a trash bag, tied it up, and carried it straight to the dumpster outside. When I came back in, the apartment felt different. Lighter, quieter in a good way. For a few weeks I heard nothing. No surprise appearances, no texts from unknown numbers that were obviously her. Emma checked in once or twice, but she never mentioned her sister. I got the sense that Laura had burned more than just our bridge that night. Then, one Saturday afternoon, I was out running errands when I saw her. She was across the street walking alone, hair down and sunglasses on. She noticed me, and for a second our eyes met. There was a flicker of something there. Maybe regret, maybe longing. But she didn't cross the street. She just kept walking. I didn't feel the urge to call out to her. I didn't feel anything at all, really. Just a strange sort of calm. That's when I realized the anger was gone. The hurt was gone. I had finally let go. It wasn't because she'd apologized or because I'd gotten some satisfying revenge. It was because I'd stopped giving her any space in my head. She was just another person now. One I used to know. A week later, Emma sent me one last text about her. She's moving to another city. Starting fresh, I guess. I stared at the message for a few seconds, then typed back, I hope it works out for her. And I meant it. Because she was no longer my problem. No longer my story to fix or control. My life was mine again. That night, I poured myself a drink, sat on the balcony, and watched the sun go down. There was no grand revelation, no cinematic moment. Just peace. The quiet kind that comes when you finally choose yourself over someone who never would have done the same for you. And if she ever wondered whether I'd forgiven her, she'd never get the answer. Some things don't need to be said.